The council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant crystal sphere. Inside, 17 different alien species sat in their designated areas, arguing about matters that affected the entire galaxy. Today's meeting was different because someone had mentioned the old stories again, the stories about humans. Ambassador stood tall on her platform. Her blue skin shimmered under the chamber lights as she spoke with confidence. "These tales about Terrans are nothing but children's stories," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Every civilization has its monsters and myths. These humans are ours." Many in the council nodded in agreement. For 300 years, no one had seen or heard from Earth. The planet had gone silent after what historians called the Silence Event. Most believed the humans had destroyed themselves with their primitive weapons, just as the old predictions warned. But the old historian of the council disagreed. He moved slowly to the center of the chamber, carrying a data pad that looked ancient. His 6 arms trembled slightly as he held it up for everyone to see. "I have studied the old records," he said quietly. "The transmissions from Earth stopped exactly 300 years ago, but before that they showed signs of advanced technology. Ships that could move faster than anything we have now. Weapons that could tear apart asteroids." Laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "If they were so advanced, where are they now? Why hasn't anyone seen them in 3 centuries? The council chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. It was true. In 300 years of exploration and expansion, not one scout ship had found any trace of living humans. A few abandoned stations, yes. Some old colonies with empty buildings and silent machines. But no people, no ships, no signals. What the council did not know was that someone was watching them right now. Captain Minu sat in the command chair of his ship, the Wanderer, and stared at the screen showing the council meeting. His ship hung in space, completely invisible to every sensor the aliens had. Human stealth technology had improved a lot in 300 years. "They still think we're dead," said his second officer, a young woman named. She shook her head in disbelief. "After all this time, they really believe we're just stories." Minu smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Let them believe. Admiral wants us to wait and watch. We reveal ourselves when the time is right, not before." On the screen, the council meeting continued, was now showing images of an abandoned human colony that miners had discovered last month. The buildings were intact, perfectly preserved by the dry atmosphere of the desert planet. Inside, they had found technology that the council scientists could not understand. Power sources that still worked after 300 years. Computers with data storage beyond anything the galaxy currently used. "This colony was called New," explained. "According to the records we found, it housed 50,000 humans before the Silence Event. They grew food, raised families, and built a peaceful life on this world. And then, one day, they all left. Every single person. They took nothing with them except some personal items. Why would they do that?" Was losing patience. "It doesn't matter why. What matters is that this planet and its technology now belong to whoever claims it. I move that the Empire be given mining rights to this world. We found it, we should profit from it." The vote was quick. 12 species voted yes, 3 voted no, and 2 abstained. The humans' old colony would be strip-mined for its technology and resources. In the Wanderer, Minu's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. "Record everything," he ordered. "The Admiral needs to see this." Worked her console quickly, recorded and encrypted, sending it now through the quantum link. Far beyond the Council's sensor range, in the darkness between stars, the human fleet waited. 300 ships of various sizes hung in the void, all of them invisible to conventional detection. At the center of this ghost armada was the Indomitable, a massive warship that served as humanity's flagship. Admiral stood on the bridge, watching the same council meeting that Minu observed. She was older than most of her crew, with gray streaking through her black hair. She had spent 40 years in space, watching aliens from the shadows, learning their languages, studying their cultures. She knew more about the Galactic Council than they knew about themselves. "They're going to mine new," said Commander, her diplomatic officer. He was younger, idealistic, and believed that humans and aliens could live together peacefully. "We have to stop them. That colony has graves, memorials, pieces of our history." Nodded slowly. "I know, but if we reveal ourselves now, we must be ready for war. The Council fears what it doesn't understand, and we are very much unknown to them." "We've been ready for years," said another voice. It belonged to one of the fleet's best pilots. She was only 25 but had already flown more missions than officers twice her age. "We can't let them destroy our past. What's the point of staying hidden if we lose everything that makes us human?" Looked around her bridge. She saw the faces of men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Children of the long isolation, born in the darkness between stars, raised on stories of Earth and the Council that had forgotten them. 300 years ago, something had happened. A barrier of pure energy had surrounded Earth and its nearby colonies, cutting them off from the rest of the galaxy. No one could get in or out. Humanity had been alone, trapped, believing they were the last intelligent life in the universe. But humans adapted. They always did. They found ways to survive, to thrive, to push outward into the dark. They developed new technology out of desperation and necessity. They built ships that could travel through dimensions the Council didn't even know existed. They created an empire in the shadows, invisible and growing. And now, after 3 centuries, the barrier was gone. Humanity had returned to a galaxy that had forgotten them, a galaxy that thought they were myths. Made her decision. "Send orders to all ships. We move to Nova Sol immediately. If they want to mine human graves, they'll have to go through us first." On the screen, the Council meeting was ending. The ambassadors were leaving, satisfied with their decision. None of them noticed the small anomalies in their sensor readings. None of them saw the ghost signals that appeared and disappeared too quickly to register. But soon, very soon, they would see everything. Captain Menu closed the communication channel and turned to his crew. "Set course for Nova Sol. Maximum stealth. The Admiral is bringing the fleet." "Are we really going to reveal ourselves?" asked. Menu smiled. "The aliens thought we were myths. Let's show them that some myths are real." The Wanderer turned silently in space and disappeared, moving faster than any Council ship could follow. Behind it, 300 other vessels did the same, converging on a single point in space. The age of human isolation was about to end, and the galaxy was not ready for what was coming. The mining fleet arrived at Nova Sol 3 days after the Council's decision. 20 massive ships descended toward the planet's surface, their engines burning bright against the morning sky. Commander Vexil of the Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled with satisfaction. This operation would make him rich and famous. "Begin landing operations," he ordered. "I want excavation teams on the ground within the hour. This technology is worth more than 10 regular planets." The soldiers spread across the human colony like insects. They set up their equipment in the abandoned streets, broke into sealed buildings, and started removing everything of value. They laughed and joked as they worked, treating the empty colony like a treasure vault left unguarded. In one of the residential areas, soldiers found a memorial garden. Smooth stones arranged in careful patterns surrounded a central monument with names carved into black metal. Thousands of names. The soldiers didn't understand the human writing, and they didn't care. The monument was made of valuable alloy. They attached cables to it and prepared to tear it down. That's when made his choice. He watched from a rooftop 200 meters away, his rifle scope centered on the commander giving orders to destroy the memorial. His orders from Captain Menu were clear: observe only, do not engage, but had been born on Nova Sol. His grandparents' names were on that monument. "Don't," whispered through the communication link. She was stationed on the other side of the colony with her own observation team. "We're supposed to stay hidden." "They're desecrating our dead," replied quietly. His finger moved to the trigger. "Captain Minu will have your head," warned. "Then I'll die doing the right thing." The shot was silent. Human weapons didn't make noise anymore. The commander dropped, a clean hole through his chest. Before the other soldiers could react, was moving, sliding down from the rooftop and sprinting toward the memorial. His team of 5 Marines followed without hesitation. They had all been waiting for this moment, hopping for a reason to fight. They were slow to respond. They had never faced an enemy that moved like humans, fast and precise and utterly fearless. By the time they raised their weapons, his team had already taken position around the memorial. "This is human territory," shouted Imperfect. The aliens froze in shock. "You will leave now or you will join your commander." They stared at the 6 figures in dark armor. They had heard the old stories, the myths about humans, creatures from a death world who could survive injuries that would kill any civilized species, warriors who felt no fear, no mercy, no hesitation. One brave soldier raised his weapon. He didn't get to fire. Shot from across the colony took him down. She had decided to back play, orders or not. "We have civilians in danger, Sector 7. His voice crackled over the communication network. "Mining operation caused a collapse. Aliens are trapped in the rubble." Didn't hesitate. Team move out double time. They reached Sector 7 in minutes. A large building had partially collapsed, probably weakened by centuries of weather and then shaken apart by the mining equipment. Several workers were trapped under debris, crying out in pain and fear. The who weren't trapped just stood there, staring at the rubble. Their equipment wasn't designed for rescue operations. They were miners, not emergency workers. His team pushed past them and began lifting the heavy concrete and metal beams. They watched in amazement as these armored figures moved debris that should have required machinery. Human muscle, enhanced by advanced exoskeletons and 300 years of genetic optimization, made them stronger than they looked. "This one's alive," called out the team medic. She pulled a young from the rubble, his leg crushed and bleeding green blood. She immediately began treating him with supplies from her kit. "Why are you helping us?" asked one of the workers. "We're destroying your colony." Looked at him while lifting a beam that weighed at least 2 tons. "Because you're living beings in danger. That's all the reason we need." By the time Captain Minu arrived in a transport ship, had saved 12 lives and secured the memorial garden. Minu was furious, but he couldn't argue with the results. They were confused and frightened, but they were also grateful. "You were supposed to observe," Minu said quietly as he surveyed the scene. "They were going to tear down our memorial," replied. "I observed that and I acted." Minu wanted to be angry, but he understood. He had felt the same way watching the council meeting. "The Admiral is going to hear about this." "Good," said. "Maybe she'll finally let us stop hiding." Minu made his decision quickly. If they were already exposed, they might as well make it count. He activated his ship's communication array and broadcast on all frequencies, unencrypted and clear. The message reached the Galactic Council in minutes. It reached every news network, every military command, every civilian station in Council space. Captain Minu's face appeared on billions of screens across the galaxy. "My name is Captain Minu of the Terran Space Defense Force," he said calmly. "For 300 years you believed humans were extinct. You were wrong. We survived. We adapted. We thrived. And now you are mining our graves, stealing from our dead and destroying our history. This ends today. Nova Sol is human territory. Leave now or face the consequences." The broadcast ended. For a long moment the galaxy was silent with shock. Then Admiral made her move. 300 human ships appeared simultaneously in orbit around Nova Sol. They didn't arrive through normal hyperspace. They simply materialized, their stealth systems deactivating all at once. One moment the orbital space was empty. The next, it was filled with vessels unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The mining fleet panicked. Their sensors were going crazy with readings they couldn't understand. Ships that big shouldn't be able to hide. Technology like that shouldn't exist. "This is Admiral of the Terran Fleet," her voice boomed across all channels. "You have 30 minutes to evacuate this planet. After that, any vessel remaining will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." Commander Vexel, still in shock from losing his ground commander, tried to sound brave. "You can't threaten the Empire. We are a council member. We have allies." "You have 29 minutes," replied coldly. The fleet left in 15. On the ground, and his team watched the alien ships flee. Stood beside him, her helmet off, breathing the air of Nova Sol for the first time without fear of being discovered. "We just started a war," she said quietly. "No," corrected. "They started it when they forgot we existed. We're just reminding them." Captain Minu received a communication from the Indomitable. "Captain, you're either going to be court-martialed or promoted," said, reading the message. "The Admiral wants to see you immediately." Minu looked at his team, at the memorial they had saved, at the workers who were being treated by human medics. "Tell the Admiral I'm on my way." And, "Yes, sir. Thank you for backing our play." She smiled. Someone had to do the right thing. As Minu's transport lifted off toward the Indomitable, he could see the human fleet spreading across the orbital space. 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of technology developed in isolation and desperation. Each one crewed by men and women who had never known a galaxy that acknowledged their existence. The myths were real now. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council met in emergency session within hours of the human fleet's appearance. The crystal chamber was filled with shouting, panic, and confusion. 17 species all talking at once, demanding answers that no one could provide. Ambassador slammed her hand on her console, trying to restore order. "How is this possible?" she demanded. 300 years. How did an entire civilization hide from us for 300 years? The old historian looked less surprised than the others. "Perhaps they weren't hiding from us," he said thoughtfully. "Perhaps they simply couldn't reach us until now." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the chamber flickered and changed. A woman's face appeared, middle-aged with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore a dark uniform with insignia no one recognized. "My name is Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet," she said calmly. "I believe we need to talk." The council chamber erupted again. Several species demanded she be cut off immediately. Others wanted to hear what she had to say, finally managed to restore some order. "You claim to represent humanity," said coldly. "Prove it. Prove you're not just pirates using stolen ships and pretending to be a myth." His expression didn't change. 300 years ago something happened to Earth. We call it the Silence Event. A barrier of pure energy surrounded our home system and several nearby colonies. Nothing could get in or out. We were cut off from the galaxy, trapped, alone. She paused, letting the information sink in. "We didn't know if we were the only intelligent life left in the universe. We didn't know if something had destroyed the rest of the galaxy. All we knew was that we had to survive. So we did. We pushed outward into the dark space around us. We built colonies on hostile worlds because we had no choice. We developed new technology because the old ways no longer worked." On screens throughout the chamber, images began appearing. Human cities on worlds with crushing gravity. Stations orbiting black holes, harvesting energy from the event horizon. Ships that could fold space in ways the Council's scientists had never imagined. 50 years ago, the barrier fell, continued. As suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. We found ourselves back in a galaxy that had moved on without us. A galaxy that thought we were dead or mythical. We've been watching you, learning your languages, studying your cultures. We wanted to understand what we had missed before revealing ourselves. Commander appeared beside on the screen. He was younger with a kind face that seemed out of place on a warship. "We come in peace," he said. "We don't want war. We simply want recognition of our sovereignty and the right to exist without interference. The colony of Nova Sol is ours. It contains the graves of our ancestors. Would you allow someone to mine your burial grounds?" A representative, a species known for their peaceful nature, spoke up. "I am Counselor In. What you describe sounds like a nightmare. 300 years of isolation would destroy most civilizations. How did you survive?" Smiled slightly. "We're human. Surviving impossible situations is what we do best." Over the next several hours, Commander presented humanity's case to the Council. He showed them maps of human territory, 200 worlds claimed and settled during the isolation. He shared information about human culture, art, music, and philosophy. He introduced them to the concept of human diversity, how one species could contain so many different cultures and beliefs. Lieutenant, now assigned to the diplomatic team, gave a presentation about human biology. The council listened in fascination and horror as she explained how humans evolved on a death world, a planet with gravity, radiation, and predators that would kill most galactic species. She showed them how humans bonded with predatory animals, how they consumed substances that were poisonous to most other beings for pleasure, how their bodies could heal from injuries that would be fatal to others. "You're describing monsters," said a representative, fear clear in his voice. "No," replied gently. "I'm describing survivors. Yes, we're tough. Yes, we're resilient. But we're also compassionate, creative, and capable of great kindness. The same instincts that make us dangerous to enemies make us fiercely protective of those we consider friends." As proof, she showed footage from Nova Sol and his team rescuing workers from the collapsed building, human medics treating alien wounded, Captain Minu ordering his ships to help evacuate the mining fleet safely, even though those same ships had been destroying human property. The council was divided. Some species, led by the wanted to welcome humanity and learn from them. They saw potential for knowledge exchange and cooperation. Others, particularly the Empire and their military allies, saw only a threat. A species that powerful, that technologically advanced, that numerous could upset the balance of power in the galaxy. 200 worlds, whispered the military commander to his empress. 50 billion humans, and ships we can barely detect. If they wanted to, they could conquer half the galaxy before we could mount a defense. The empress listened carefully. She was already planning, already calculating. If humans were this powerful, they had to be controlled or eliminated. There was no middle ground. While the council debated, Lieutenant was given permission to bring a group of alien observers to one of the human city ships. These were massive vessels, each one capable of housing 1 million people, that served as mobile habitats for humans who preferred life in space. A young scientist named In was among the observers. She had volunteered immediately, eager to meet the mythical humans. As their shuttle approached the city ship named New Haven, she pressed against the window like an excited child. The city ship was beautiful. It rotated slowly to create artificial gravity, with gardens visible through transparent sections. The design was both functional and artistic, showing that humans cared about more than just survival. Met them at the docking port. "Welcome to New Haven," she said warmly. "I hope you'll see that we're not so different from you." And immediately bombarded her with questions. What was Earth like? How did humans develop faster than light travel? What was their favorite food? Did they really keep predators as pets? Laughed and answered as best she could. She led the group through the city ship, showing them human homes, schools, gardens, and recreational areas. The aliens were amazed by everything. Human children played in parks while robotic caretakers watched over them. Families ate meals together in restaurants serving food from dozens of different human cultures. Artists created sculptures and paintings in open studios. This is not what I expected, In admitted. The stories made you sound like warriors, like a species that only knows fighting. We can fight when we must, agreed. 300 years alone taught us to be strong, but that's not all we are. We're also poets and musicians and parents and dreamers, just like you. The visit was being broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the human and alien became friends, sharing stories and laughter. It was powerful propaganda, and Commander knew it. If they could make the galaxy see humans as people rather than myths or monsters, they had a chance at peace. But not everyone wanted peace. 3 days after the council meeting, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet gathering in space. 3,000 warships, the largest military force ever assembled by the council races. They were joined by 3 other species who feared human expansion. Admiral received the intelligence report on the bridge of the Indomitable. She read it twice, then called her command staff together. "They're coming," she said simply. "The coalition is mobilizing for war." "Can we stop them?" asked Captain Menu. "We're outnumbered 10-1, replied. "But they don't know what we're capable of. They think numbers matter more than technology and tactics." "Do they?" Menu asked. Looked at her crew, at the men and women who had trained their whole lives for this moment. 300 years ago, humanity was cut off from the galaxy. We faced extinction daily. Every generation fought to survive. Our ships, our weapons, our tactics, all of them were forged in that crucible. They have never faced an enemy like us. She brought up a star map showing human territory and the approaching coalition fleet. "We're going to make our stand at the Veil, the boundary of where the old barrier used to be. It's fitting, don't you think? We'll defend our independence at the same place where our isolation began." Orders went out to the entire human fleet. Every ship, every crew, every soldier prepared for battle. Parents kissed their children goodbye. Engineers made final checks on weapon systems. Pilots ran simulations over and over, preparing for every possible scenario. And on the Indomitable, Admiral opened a channel to the approaching enemy fleet. Her message was simple and clear. "You believed we were myths. You will soon learn we are nightmares." The coalition fleet moved through space like a swarm of angry insects. 3,000 warships, representing the combined military might of 5 different species, all converging on a single point. The Veil, where human territory began and the old silence barrier once stood. Empress of the Empire stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dominator. She was old, her blue skin faded with age, but her mind was still sharp. She had ruled for 40 years and never lost a war. She did not intend to start now. "Status report," she demanded. Her tactical officer responded immediately. "All fleet elements in position. We outnumber the human forces 10-1. Their fleet consists of only 300 ships." "And yet you look worried," observed. The officer hesitated. "Their ships are unknown designs, Empress. Our sensors have trouble getting clear readings. And their movements, they're too coordinated. It's like all 300 ships operate as a single organism." "They're just better at communication," said dismissively. "Numbers will win this battle. Send the ultimatum." The message went out to the human fleet. Admiral listened to it on her bridge, surrounded by her command staff. The demands were simple. Humanity would return to Earth and stay there. They would surrender all territory claimed during the isolation. They would place themselves under Council supervision, and they would do it immediately or face annihilation. "Well," said Commander quietly, "that's not happening." "Send our response," ordered. The human reply was even simpler, a single word, "No." Captain Menu sat in the cockpit of his ship, the Wanderer, now leading a squadron of stealth vessels. He watched the enemy fleet on his sensors and shook his head. They have no idea what's about to hit them. Beside him was running final system checks. All weapons ready, stealth systems at maximum. We're invisible to them. Good, Minyu said. Let's keep it that way until we're not. In another part of the human fleet, Pilot was addressing her squadron. 24 fighter craft, small and fast, designed for precision strikes. Remember your training, she told them. We're outnumbered, but we're faster, smarter, and more determined. These aliens have never fought an enemy that refuses to die. Her co-pilot, a young man named, grinned nervously. No pressure then. Actually, lots of pressure, said honestly, but that's when humans do their best work. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral received an unexpected communication. It was from In, the scientist who had befriended Lieutenant. Her voice was urgent. Admiral, please don't fight. The Council is meeting again. Many species don't support this war. We're trying to stop it. His expression softened slightly. I appreciate that, In, but the fleet is already here. If we back down now, they'll see it as weakness. Humanity will never be free. But so many will die, In said, her voice breaking. Yes, agreed quietly. War is always about death, but sometimes you have to fight for the right to live. The communication ended, stood and addressed her crew. In a few minutes, we're going to face an enemy that thinks they can bully us into submission. They think numbers are all that matter. They're about to learn a hard lesson about humanity. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we sure as hell don't let anyone tell us where we can and cannot live. The crew cheered. Every man and woman on that bridge knew what was at stake. Their homes, their families, their future, everything they had built in 300 years of isolation. All ships, battle positions, ordered. Let's show them what happens when you wake a sleeping dragon. The fleet attacked first. 1,000 missiles streaked across space toward the human lines. The aliens expected to see explosions, debris, and panic. Instead, they saw something impossible. The human ships didn't dodge. They didn't even move. Point defense systems, faster and more accurate than anything the Council had ever seen, destroyed every single missile before it reached its target. Not one human ship took damage. Impossible, breathed Empress. No defense system is that perfect. Empress, we're detecting anomalies, her tactical officer reported. Ships are disappearing from our sensors and then reappearing in different positions. It's like they're teleporting. They weren't teleporting. They were using stealth technology so advanced it could activate and deactivate in seconds. Captain Minyu's squadron was already behind enemy lines, invisible and deadly. All ships weapons free, Minyu ordered. Target command vessels. 20 stealth ships opened fire simultaneously. Their weapons were designed to overload shields in a single hit. 20 command ships exploded in the span of 5 seconds. The enemy fleet fell into chaos, losing coordination without their commanders. Now, said calmly. Pilot led her squadron on an impossible course. They used gravitational assists from nearby asteroids to build speed, slingshotting themselves around rocks at velocities that should have torn their ships apart. Human inertial dampening technology kept the pilots alive as they pulled maneuvers that would have killed any other species. They hit the fleet from an angle the aliens thought was impossible. 24 fighters against 3,000 capital ships should have been suicide. Instead, it was devastation. The fighters were too small, too fast, and too unpredictable. They wove between the massive warships, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. This can't be happening, said, watching her fleet fall apart. There are only 300 ships. Empress, we're losing dozens of vessels every minute, her officer reported, panic in his voice. Our weapons can't track them. Our shields don't stop their weapons. We need to retreat. No, shouted. We have the numbers, press the attack. But numbers didn't matter when you couldn't hit your enemy. Sergeant was leading a boarding operation on an enemy supply ship. His Marines had breached the hull in silence, moving through the alien vessel like ghosts. The crew didn't even know they were under attack until it was too late. "Secure the reactor," ordered. "We're taking this ship intact." They tried to fight back, but they were used to warfare at a distance, with ships and missiles. They had never faced human marines in close combat. His team moved with brutal efficiency, using non-lethal weapons when possible but not hesitating to kill when necessary. Within 10 minutes, the supply ship was under human control. Within 20 minutes, had captured 5 more vessels. The humans weren't just winning the space battle. They were taking prisoners and seizing ships to use as evidence of aggression. Aboard the Indomitable, Commander was recording everything. The battle footage, the communications, the evidence of who fired first. He was already preparing his presentation to the Galactic Council. This wasn't just a military victory they needed. It was a political one. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Neutral Council species," a communication officer reported. Nodded, put it through. 8 different species appeared on the screen, representatives from the neutral members of the council. They had been watching the battle with growing alarm. "Admiral," said the lead representative, a being named, "we are witnessing a massacre. The coalition is being destroyed." "They attacked us," said simply. "We're defending ourselves." "We understand, but please show mercy. They are beaten. Accept their surrender." Looked at her tactical display. The fleet was indeed broken. Over 1,000 ships destroyed or disabled. The rest were trying to flee, but human ships were faster. "Empress must personally surrender," said firmly, "and she must acknowledge human sovereignty in front of the entire galaxy." There was a long pause. Then Empress herself appeared on the screen. She looked older, tired, defeated. "You've made your point, Admiral. You're not myths. You're real and you're terrifying." "Will you surrender?" asked. Pride warred with her survival instinct. She looked at the tactical display showing her shattered fleet. "I surrender. The Empire acknowledges humanity's right to exist and their sovereignty over their claimed territories." "Say it again," ordered. "Broadcast it on all channels. Let the galaxy hear." Did. Her surrender was transmitted across the galaxy, heard by billions of beings on thousands of worlds. The mighty Empire, defeated by a species they thought was a myth. "All human ships cease fire," ordered. "Provide assistance to damaged vessels. We are not monsters. We do not kill unnecessarily." Captain Menu brought his ship back to the Indomitable, exhausted but victorious. On the way, he recorded a personal message to his daughter Sara, who was safe on a colony far from the battle. "Hey, little star, your dad is okay. The fighting is over. We won. More importantly, we proved that humanity deserves respect. I'll see you soon." Pilot landed her fighter with only minutes of fuel remaining. She had pushed her ship to its absolute limits and beyond. As she climbed out of the cockpit, her legs were shaking, helped her stay upright. "We did it," he said in disbelief. "We actually did it." Never doubted it for a second, lied. She had doubted plenty, but humans were good at pushing through doubt. Admiral stood alone on her bridge, watching rescue operations begin. Human ships were already helping the damaged vessels, saving lives of the same aliens who had tried to destroy them an hour ago. "This is who we are," she said quietly to herself. "Strong enough to win, compassionate enough to help our enemies when they fall." The age of human isolation was truly over, and the galaxy was watching. 6 months after the Battle of the Veil, the Galactic Council met again. But this time, there were 18 species represented instead of 17. The members sat in a gleaming new section of the chamber, specially constructed for humanity's delegation. Commander stood to address the council for the first time as an official representative. He wore a formal uniform, dark blue with silver insignia, designed to look diplomatic rather than military. Behind him sat Admiral, Captain Menu, Lieutenant, and Sergeant, a reminder that humanity could be both peaceful and dangerous. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, began, his voice calm and clear. 6 months ago you believed we were myths. Today we stand before you as equals. We don't come seeking dominance or revenge. We come offering partnership. The council chamber was quiet. Many species were still adjusting to the reality of humanity's existence and power. The Empire had paid heavily for their aggression. Empress had been forced to abdicate, and her successor was far more cautious about picking fights. But not everyone was hostile. The had embraced humanity immediately. It now worked directly with Lieutenant on cultural exchange programs. Several other species had opened diplomatic channels, eager to trade and learn. We propose a technology-sharing initiative, continued. Humanity developed unique solutions during our isolation. We're willing to share some of this knowledge in exchange for information about the galaxy we missed. We believe cooperation benefits everyone. A representative, younger and less aggressive than, spoke up nervously. What assurances do we have that humanity won't use its military superiority to conquer us? Admiral stood to answer. We had 300 years to prepare for this moment. If we wanted conquest, we could have attacked without warning. Instead, we watched, learned, and reached out peacefully. We defended ourselves when attacked, yes, but we also helped rescue your wounded afterward. Actions speak louder than words. Besides, added Captain Minu with a slight smile, conquest is inefficient. We'd rather have friends than subjects. Friends share resources willingly. Subjects just plot rebellion. Several council members actually laughed at that. The tension in the chamber eased slightly. Over the next few hours, the council discussed humanity's integration into galactic society. Trade agreements were proposed. Territory borders were formally recognized. And most importantly, humanity was granted full voting rights and representation. When the session ended, was surrounded by diplomats from other species, all wanting to establish better relationships. He handled each conversation with patience and skill, making allies where months ago there had been only suspicion. Far from the political center, life was changing for ordinary humans and aliens alike. Captain Minu had finally retired from active duty. He now lived on Nu, the colony he had fought to protect. His daughter Sora visited often, bringing her children to meet their grandfather. She had married an engineer named, and together they were helping rebuild colonies damaged in the brief war. "Grandpa, tell us about the battle again," asked Minu's grandson, a boy of 7 named. Minu smiled and ruffled the boy's hair. "Maybe later. Right now, I want to hear about your school project. Your mom said you're building a model of the Indomitable." "Yes, and I'm using real human and alien technology. My teacher is and she's amazing." That was the real victory, Minu thought. Not the battle he had won, but the future his would have. A future where human and alien children learned together, played together, and grew up without the fear and hatred that had almost destroyed everything. Lieutenant had become the director of the Cultural Exchange Institute, the largest project of its kind in galactic history. Her headquarters was on a neutral space station that housed representatives from all council species. Today, she was giving a tour to a group of alien students who wanted to study human culture. Her friend, walked beside her as a teaching assistant. "Humans have over 200 distinct cultures," explained, each with its own language, traditions, and history. During our isolation, we learned to celebrate our differences rather than fight over them. It made us stronger. A young student raised his hand. "My grandmother told me humans were monsters, but you seem nice." Knelt down to his level. "Your grandmother was scared. Fear makes us imagine monsters where there are none. The truth is, every species can be monstrous or kind. It's a choice we make every day." The student thought about this seriously. "I choose to be kind." "Then you're already wiser than many adults," said warmly. Sergeant had taken an unexpected path. Instead of continuing as a combat soldier, he now trained council peacekeepers. His base was on Nova Sol, near the memorial he had fought to protect. Today, he was teaching a mixed class of human and alien recruits about close-quarters combat. The key isn't strength, he explained. It's understanding. You need to know your own limits and your opponent's capabilities. A fight avoided is better than a fight won. A massive recruit, easily twice size, looked skeptical. But you're famous for fighting. You started the war. I started a battle, corrected. And I regret the lives lost because of my choice. Yes, I'd do it again to protect that memorial, but I wish I had found another way. That's what I'm teaching you. Fight when you must, but always look for the path that saves lives. The recruits, both human and alien, listened carefully. Had become something unexpected, a symbol of humanity's dual nature, fierce in defense but committed to peace. Pilot had been promoted to squadron commander and was training the next generation of pilots. Her base was near a neutron star, where the intense gravity allowed for advanced maneuvering practice. Remember, she told her mixed human and alien squadron, space combat isn't about who has the biggest ship. It's about who can think fastest and adapt quickest. During the battle, I used gravitational assists that should have been impossible. I succeeded because I was willing to try something crazy. Now her second-in-command added, also because you're slightly insane. The pilots laughed. The squadron included humans, reformed, and 3 other species. They trained together, ate together, and had become genuine friends. When looked at them, she saw the future, different species working together as a team. Back on Earth, people were celebrating the planet's reconnection with its lost colonies. They had survived the Silence event, but barely. Its population had been reduced to a few billion, and technology had regressed in some areas. But now, with the colonies returning and sharing their knowledge, Earth was being rebuilt. Sora's husband was part of the restoration team working on the old cities. Today, they were repairing the ancient capital of Sol, using technology that combined old Earth architecture with new colony innovations. It's strange, he said to Sora as they walked through the restored streets. This place was dying 6 months ago. Now look at it, full of life again, with humans and aliens working side by side. Sora smiled. My father always said humans survive impossible things. Earth survived 300 years of isolation. It can survive anything. Admiral stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking at Earth through the viewport. The blue planet hung in space, beautiful and peaceful. She thought about the long journey that had brought them here. 300 years of isolation. Years of watching the Council from the shadows. The brief but brutal war. And now, finally, peace. Thinking deep thoughts, asked Commander, joining her. Thinking about how far we've come, replied, and how far we still need to go. The Council is proposing a joint exploration mission, said. Human ships and alien ships working together to map unknown space. They want you to lead it. Considered this. She was tired of fighting, ready to retire, but exploration, that was different. That was about discovery, not destruction. I'll think about it, she said. But I want you to know you did well, better than I could have done with the politics. Smiled, you gave them the stick. I just offered the carrot afterward. We both did what we're good at. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Earth slowly rotate. Ships of all species moved in orbit, some delivering supplies, others simply visiting to see humanity's legendary. Do you think the myths will ever completely go away? Asked. Will aliens always see us as the scary humans from the old stories? Thought about this carefully. Some will always fear us. We can't change that. But over time, I think we'll just become neighbors. The scary stories will turn into friendly competition. Oh, you think your species is tough? Let me tell you about humans. That kind of thing. I can live with that, said. On the surface of Earth in the rebuilt city of Sol, a monument was being unveiled. It showed a human and an alien reaching toward each other, their hands almost touching. The inscription read, "We walked through darkness alone. We emerged into light together." Representatives from all council species attended the ceremony. Captain Minu was there with his family. Lieutenant stood beside in. Sergeant came with his peacekeeping students. Pilot brought her squadron. An admiral made a rare public appearance wearing her dress uniform. The ambassador, a diplomat named who had worked tirelessly for peace, gave a short speech. "My people attacked you because we feared what we didn't understand. You defeated us in battle, but you also showed us mercy. Today, I'm proud to call humanity our friends." Minu's grandson tugged on his sleeve. "Grandpa, are humans still special?" Minu thought about the question. "We're no more special than any other species," he said finally. "We just had to work harder to survive. That made us strong, but it also made us appreciate what we have. Remember that strength without wisdom is just violence, but strength with compassion can change the galaxy." As the sun set over Earth, humans and aliens celebrated together. There would be challenges ahead, certainly. Not every species trusted humanity yet. Cultural misunderstandings would happen. Arguments over resources and territory would arise. But for the first time in 300 years, humanity wasn't alone. And for the first time in galactic history, the Council had a member species that had survived the impossible. Admiral received a final communication before leaving Earth. It was from Empress, now in quiet retirement on her. The message was simple. "You taught us that myths can be real. Thank you for also teaching us that nightmares can choose to be kind. Perhaps there's hope for all of us." Smiled and deleted the message. She didn't need thanks or apologies. The future spoke for itself. As the Indomitable prepared to depart Earth for the joint exploration mission, looked back one last time. The blue planet was no longer isolated. Ships from across the galaxy orbited it peacefully. Human colonies dotted the stars. And somewhere out there in the unknown darkness beyond explored space, new adventures waited. "Set course for the galactic rim," she ordered. "Let's see what's out there." The ship's engines hummed to life. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead, the unknown beckoned. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and the galaxy was better for it. The myths had become real. The nightmares had become guardians, and the survivors had become family. This was not an ending, it was a beginning.